Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. I am Brian Searl with Insider Perks and Modern Campground. Outside today because my computer crashed. There's a woodpecker on the side of my house. There's a street sweeper. All things are going on at the same time. But we're going to have a good show anyway because we got good guests. Excited to welcome back some of our recurring people. Scott Barr from Karen Consulting Group. We have Simon from Camp Math. And we have two special guests here, Paul Bosley and Ed. I will let both of you guys introduce yourselves shortly. But excited. We're missing a couple RV people. They're in D.C. Lobbying for the industry, talking about some legislation, stuff like that. I think Scott Barr was there for a day or two before he ducked out. Yep. Obviously too important to stay for the whole thing. He's got other things on his agenda, right? So
they don't want me to be the public face of any organization. That's what it's really all about.
Well, that's why I'm
here. They just sent me home. It's like, get out of here now. You're usefulness is done. So
at least you were also the public face in like the room, though. They don't even invite me to that because, like, look at this face. Would you want that to be the public of anything or the private of anything, honestly? So but welcome, everybody. We're gonna have a good show. It's first week of the month. We're gonna talk about data, all kinds of stuff that's going on in the industry. Also explore a little bit about Paul's business and Ed's business and what they're seeing in the consulting world and finance world and stuff like that. And maybe Ed, he just walked out on us. Did you see that? We must have offended him, Scott. He just left.
Well, had a camp worker blowing right outside the door.
He needs a batter now. The street sweeper made it down there. That's a pretty quick street sweeper. All right, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. Let's start with a recurring guest. Scott, you want to start?
Scott Barr, Karen Consulting Group, market research and data analysis.
You make it sound so fascinating, Scott.
You gotta keep a little mystery in.
So much more important than that. All right, Simon.
Yeah, I'm Simon, the founder of Camp Map. We help campgrounds and RV parks improve marketing and guest experience with premium digital and printable maps.
Sounds like you read that, Simon.
That's his elevator pitch. He's got it down.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good. Like, I'm not knocking it, but okay. Paul.
Paul Bosley, founder of Business Finance Depot. I've been in the finance business for about 20 years and in the RV park industry for about 10, and started getting involved with the glamping show about 5 or 6 years ago. So we've been working very diligently to do what we can to finance glamping projects all over the country.
As I understand it, Paul, and you tell me if I'm wrong, as I understand it, there would be no glamping industry without you.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it started long before me. My understanding, it started in England, actually, and it came here during COVID. Is that correct?
Well, I only came here because of you. Like, there was glamping in the African tents along the river, like, I don't know, 300 years ago, right? So.
I don't think that's the case at all, but it's a nice thought.
If we say it enough times, though, people will believe it. And Scott, I don't know if you're aware of this. Over the last few weeks on MC Fireside Chats, I've been reminding people that KOA got started because of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I don't know if you were aware of that, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it actually didn't. It got started during the World Fair the same year. But if we say enough times on the show, then I think people will believe it.
Oh, you had me believing you there.
They started because of the World's Fair.
So, maybe. We also could just be saying
rumor has it, but
rumor has it. Ed,
Hi, everybody. My name is Ed Bridgman. My middle initial is O. I go by Ed O. Bridgman. I started a TV show here a while back, and they introduced me as Ed O. Bridgman. And I said, no, I'm not Irish. It's my middle initial. I'm the owner of the largest outdoor hospitality consulting company. If I say it often enough, people will start believing I'm the owner of the largest outdoor hospitality.
All right, do it.
I also own Homestead RV Community, the world's most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. And I do a lot of effort to make certain that Homestead RV Community is the most technologically advanced. Last couple weeks ago, we just updated our fiber optic through every site to 1 gigabit speeds. I'm testing cameras right now on 2 different systems right now, side by side. I do a lot of beta testing at Homestead RV Community for the outdoor hospitality industry so that I can not only advise my clients how to spend their money, but I can show them how I spent my money.
Ed, you got to catch up a little bit on technology. I mean, the one gigabit thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, you are in America. That's fair. Like Canada up here, I have 3 gigs running to my house. So
Well, I have a dedicated fiber optic line running to every site for, but we don't have any demand for anything higher than 1 gigabyte.
because I haven't stayed with you yet, I need 15 gigabytes. I'll come down there and change the picture. All right. So what do we got? So normally we start off with the show. We ask our recurring guests, Scott and Simon, just is there anything that has come across your desk in the last month since we've been together on the show? I think maybe I missed the last month, so maybe 2 months, but just that has changed or you think we should be talking about from the industry perspective?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that's come across really is the going to the RVs Move America week this week and just interacting and having a lot of real detailed conversations with people from the industry to see and see where that's at and see where everybody's kind of state of mind is at this point, as we enter into the summer season and kind of where we're heading. So it's I like the event because people talk about the industry. They're not allowed to talk about their individual companies because of antitrust. You have a lot of competitors in the same rooms, and so it's all very much at a higher level. It's a little bit more serious, and it's usually some real solid conversations. I have a lot of takeaways from it. So,
what was the biggest secret that someone told you that you can't repeat?
That Ed has the best consulting company in the world.
Is that a secret? That's not a secret.
Not anymore.
All right, what did you learn? What did you have in the good conversations there?
It was really it had a much more serious tone this year. A lot more questioning going on about instead of the industry tends to, and it isn't just the RV industry, it's our industry overall, tends to talk a lot about the problem identification, but not a lot of solutions are kind of flying around out there. And
what kind of problems are you talking about, Scott?
Oh, right now within the RV industry, it's slow. Sales are slow, and they're projected
really slow. Let's clarify those numbers for people who haven't heard them. What's the latest numbers, Scott?
The last month, the shipments were down almost 18% year over year. So year to date, I think they're down almost 10%.
And retail's worse, right?
Retail's worse. So yeah, the market itself, the RV industry is slow right now. It's slow, and according to the Economist, it's projected to stay fairly slow. So with some obvious differences out there. Certain types of RVs are selling better than others, and so on. But overall, as an industry, we're and it has to do with a lot of things that are going on right now. And there's a very open acknowledgement of that. So that's really the biggest takeaway that and people start to talk about, like, what do we do? For example, one of the problems I've just in my work with and doing the Camping and Outdoor Hospitality report is the decline in participation among Gen Z. Having attrition amongst a group that should be increasing, and that's part of that generalizes to all sectors of the industry, including the RV industry. So it's now the next part of the conversations are what do we do? And that felt like there was a lot of openness to having those conversations that in the past were pretty general. Now people are interested in a lot more specifics. So consultants said there's a lot of room for consultants in the industry right now. I feel like people that just have being results oriented. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it's really true, and that's kind of where things are at. A little bit more of an open dialogue. It felt like.
Well, let's play this out briefly for a second. I don't want the whole show to take over the RV industry and the negative aspect of it, right? But let's play this out for a second. Let's say that for whatever reason, there's, I don't know, economic headwinds, like maybe a war starts somewhere or something like that. Let's just pretend, right? And the rebound, the retail sales and shipments don't rebound for all of 2026, and maybe I don't know what happens in 2027. What does the RV industry do? Are there talks of plans or preparations or anything like that about how we adjust, or is it still kind of in the early stages?
It's still in the early stages, and each brand, each organization kind of has their own approach to things. The overall organization of within the RVIA, Go RVing is the marketing arm of the industry, and they're doing a lot more trying to get some promotions out there, kind of talking more about the RV lifestyle and getting people to see them. They're doing like some influencer tours this year, going all throughout the US to some different locations and holding events and doing some on the ground stuff. So that, for the industry overall, that's kind of what's happening. I wasn't able to talk to a lot of individual brands about specifics that they're working on, other than kind of trying to resolve some of the issues, some of the barriers to entry right now, in terms of RVing, because it does impact camping. Fewer RVers means fewer guests at the campgrounds, and it's a big part of the outdoor economy.
Well, I personally, I don't pay that much attention to how many RVs were shipped out of Elkhart, Indiana. I pay a lot more attention to how many RVs were sold in the United States. That's more important to me, because they can over manufacture and then they can have a correction and sales can continue to be strong. I understand that sales have dipped some. I know for me personally, I'm kind of waiting for interest rates to come back down a little bit. Before I make a big major purchase. I believe the war and the price of oil is having a significant impact on that. And I doubt if I'm the only person who's waiting to make decent sized purchases, but Paul could probably speak to that better.
Well, Paul's got all the money. He's flush with cash over there. So what's happening, Paul? How come you're not lending more money to everybody, man? What's going on?
Oh, we're busy. We're at 189 million in approvals right now. So we're with about 160 people. I'd say half of that's in the RV or the glamping industry. So we're very busy. We're probably busier from the glamping industry than we are from the RV park industry. So that might echo to some extent what Scott's saying.
That makes sense. We are seeing like a strength. I don't know if you would call it a strength, would you, Scott? But definitely not a weakness in glamping like we are in the RV industry.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, there was two things that woke me up about the glamping industry. One is Marriott has announced that they have started a glamping division of their company. So when you have the second biggest hotel chain in the world announcing that they're going to get into the glamping industry, that if that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. They obviously did a lot of market research and decided that glamping is definitely in the hotel space, which is something that I've come to conclusions with over the last, I'd say a year or 2 years. At first, I thought glamping was really just part of the RV industry until I really started to understand it more. And it's a separate industry. And then the second thing that was a wake-up call is our first 10 years, we were in the franchise space. We do a lot of franchise financing. And then all of a sudden, I'm at the glamping show last year, and there's the first franchise exhibiting. So the franchise industry is starting to come into glamping. So that's another wake-up call about this industry that's really a new industry, but it's definitely gotten a lot of people's attention, including the franchise space and Marriott. So, I mean, and a lot of our business comes from glamping, from the manufacturers that are selling the glamping equipment. They know us and they send us people that they're trying to get financing for.
the glamping space tends to one of the reasons you're seeing the hotels in the space too is because glamping has a little bit stronger appeal to the typical hotel guest, and the hotels were recognizing the threat that glamping posed to them. And that kind of came on the heels of the pandemic originally, but they've also seen that once a lot of those leisure travelers that normally weren't campers or RVers were being attracted to these facilities, they decided to jump into the game. So I think you're going to see even more of it in the next couple of years.
What have
I agree.
you seen in the changing? Oh, sorry. Continue, Paul, please, if you hadn't answered that.
No, I just agree. My analysis is the glamping industry is very creative. I mean, the RV park industry. I'm an Airstreamer, so I've certainly been in a lot of RV parks all over the country, and they're either pull-through sites, back-in sites, or campsites, and then all of a sudden glamping comes along, and you start seeing a lot of companies like Ed's company put in, IT equipment, and they start to put in tiny homes and stuff like that. But realistically, glamping is people own land all over the country, and they're trying to figure out a way to get a second income. I just think the glamping industry's just got a lot more upside. The average deal is smaller. I mean, the glamping industry deals are anywhere from maybe 400,000 to maybe $1.5 million or something like that. I got one today that we're working on at USDA that's 13 million, but that's right near Cooperstown, and they're going to build kind of a nice resort near the Baseball Hall of Fame type of thing. But most of them are smaller deals, and the RV park industry is bigger deals. They're larger deals, anywhere from, let's just say, 3 million up to 25 million. So the average glamping deal is a smaller deal.
I'm working on an RV destination right now that's 150 million.
Holy moly, 150 million. Wow.
Yeah, so we have to make certain that we don't throw a blanket over the entire industry. There are pockets in this industry that are booming. All right, I'm busier than I've ever been. I'm working on 9 different projects at the same time all over the United States. And some of the biggest ones, 150 million, down to 3 or 4 million, something like that. But I think what's interesting, and Scott can talk to this some more, and I'm sure Simon can talk to this some more, but it used to be that the Southeast was the hot spot a few years ago for development, and now I'm building as fast as possible in the Northeast. And what that's being driven by is these data centers. Whatever your political, I don't want to talk political, but our current president wants to lead the world in AI technology and data centers are popping up wherever there's water and electricity, and they're being developed by people who live in RVs full time for 3 to 6 months while they're at that job and before they transfer to the next job. And we cannot develop enough RV sites fast enough to accommodate these workers.
Yeah, I don't think there's a negative. Scott and I have studied this and talked about this many times before. I don't think there's a downside to where long-term is headed in the RV industry. Generally speaking, whether it's data centers or just a lot of parts in the Northeast and Southeast too, and probably other areas of the country are swapping to long-term from transient in some cases. So I think long-term is a stronger part of the market, other than maybe Texas that's always overbuilt for some reason. I think it's the transient that we're worried about. Is that fair, Ed?
Well, last week I was in Texas. Last week I landed in Amarillo. I had 2 clients in Amarillo. I had one in New Mexico. And then I went to Shamrock, Texas, about 90 miles east, and then I stayed on I-40 and went and saw a client in Shawnee, Oklahoma, all in 1 week. These places are coming up, and these happen to be right along I-40. They have an equestrian theme. Matter of fact, the one of them in Amarillo is going to build a rodeo grounds inside the RV destination with a big covered rodeo barn and a cafe and a dance floor, and It's going to be partially open to the public and partially open to RVers who are traveling with their horses, and they're going to have a place to put their horse right next to their RV. And it also has a glamping. Probably 60-70% of every RV destination that I design has, probably higher than that, a glamping component. They also definitely higher than that, they have a boat and RV storage component.
Simon, what are you seeing in Europe? Because we talked to, I don't want to call out his name on the show, but we talked to a mutual friend that we both had at Croatia, at the Croatian Camping Conference that we sat down and had drinks with. I talked to him yesterday, and he said there's some concern in some areas of Europe that perhaps June and August are a little bit lighter than usual. What are you seeing over there?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some statistics recently that, the results from April were down a bit. But that's also a bit due to the timing of the Easter holidays, because whether that lands in March or April, when people are off, when people are traveling, because of course most of the European market in the south is people moving, traveling during the holidays to have stays. But definitely, yeah, there is uncertainty. And I think, you can always get that last minute surge, and I think that will probably happen. But certainly, actually, the weather in Europe has been pretty good so far, which also plays into it. But yeah, uncertainties around, people are holding off, and our customers are definitely seeing that as well.
Use the same reasons over here? Like, I don't know what, I mean, interest rates are obviously, I don't know what those are in Europe, but generally speaking, we have the same macroeconomic issues, jet fuel, diesel pricing, of stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's the same. I think it's a global issue now, so everybody's feeling it.
I was, I mean, anything else you want to add for the industry or anything else you want to?
Yeah, actually, I was reading some stuff. There's a nice report came out on Italy, which is it's quite telling actually. And this year, the kind of big search word is comfort, and also searching for things like entertainment, pet-friendly swimming pools, beach restaurants. So this is really kind of building in the mind of the consumer more and more, which is the experience focus. And it's also record high for family searches. So really, the family market is back at the strongest. I think we had during COVID, there was a bit more of a swing away from family and kind of new people stepping in to the market. But now it's really coming back to family strength. And yeah, I think 77% searches on family, and then split the rest between kind of younger groups of friends, 18%, and kind of solo travelers, 5%. That's definitely a theme: is comfort, good amenities, and family experience is coming back.
Are you seeing that over here too, Scott?
Yeah, definitely. The family factor is going to be pretty big again, I think, this year, as is fairly typical. You see that a little bit more in the glamping sector, though, too, which I think is really interesting. You see a lot of I know people who put up glamping parks, and they were surprised at the volume of families they got. They had originally thought it would be mostly couples. Yeah. But the idea of comfort is one that we've been tracking for a while, and looking at how much does that really influence people's decisions. And it used to be that it was one of many, but now it's both physical and mental comfort too. That, not to get too out there on it, but people really do seek a place that has mental comfort. It's like they want to be more relaxed. They want to be a little bit more I don't want to call it sedate necessarily, but less stimulation in some respects. And to kind of build on what you were saying too, Ed, though, there's also a lot of folks, especially in the RV industry, that are looking for those events, that are looking for those things that are attractions, whether it's music festivals, the horse people. I have horse people in my family, so I know exactly what you're talking about there with that park that you're mentioning. But in general, people are pretty stressed out overall. What we've seen is a changeover. We ask people, about a lot of, economic factors and how much does that impact them, and how much does it impact them, in terms of not just their wallet, but kind of their kind of emotional state. And we ask them how sensitive they are to these things. And we've seen a definite uptick into the percentage who say they're very sensitive right now. So that tells me that we've had this uptick in people who are a little bit more stressed out. They're looking for a little bit of relief in some respect, some way, and I think any place that can, put in place anything that appeals to that idea that you're gonna de-stress here. And everybody has their own way of doing that. It could be going to a rodeo, or could be just going and sitting on a rock by the river. As long as we see that a lot.
Do you think they're being a little bit more selective about what they define and consider as an experience, though, or
Sure.
a way to, not even an experience, but a way to de-stress? Because if it was just de-stressing, you would feel like the occupancy rates might not appear to be down as far as they are as early in the season. Like we pulled July 4th numbers. We were talking about that last week on Outwired. Is 62% macro occupancy for July 4th week, which is America's 250, which feels like it should be higher than that. Now, granted, there are some states like Maryland who are 93%, and so it's disproportionate where you go, but it feels like that should be higher if they were just looking to de-stress and get outside wherever they could go.
Sure. And people will look for ideas. And if if you have ideas, you should be putting them out there. But yeah, some people may not think of these things first. Like, is it, it's less stressful maybe to stay at a campground or someplace out in the woods than it is to stay with a bunch of your friends in an Airbnb. That could really stress you out. And we know with Gen Z, they do get stressed out in groups a little bit more. So, there's that the opportunity, I think, to maybe just be able to separate yourself from your travel companions is de-stressing for people, and have your own space. We don't see it jumping a lot. I know just Simon just mentioned solo travel. We see the interest in solo travel increasing as well. We don't see a real corresponding increase in participation in solo travel, but the idea of it appeals to a lot of people. And I think that's an opportunity too, honestly. Oh, did we just lose Ed? Oh, he's back. So yeah, it's each person has their own definition of how to de-stress. And there's the good thing now is the options. There's so many options for people right now, different types of environments and atmospheres and types of accommodations and whatever amenities. It's like it's out there for them. I think right now we have a good supply of those types of options. We just need to make sure people know about them when they're ready to make that decision.
What are you seeing, Paul, from is there any difference that you're seeing, Paul, in the lending and the types of projects that are being approved or wanting to be developed over the last year and a half as some of this economic stuff has changed?
No, it's when I first started in just the RV park industry, we were actually, how I got into the industry was by meeting when I was speaking at a franchise show out west. I met the person in charge of franchise financing for Yogi Bear's Yellowstone Parks, is what it was called back then before it was bought. And their average deals were always in the many millions. I've got one closing probably next month for about 13 million on a USDA loan. And there were always larger projects, even on the resales for KOA or new people coming in, there were always larger projects. And now with glamping coming into it, the range is all over the map. Like I said earlier, we have people come to us. Maybe somebody just owns a couple acres of land and they want to put a couple tiny homes on it for a second form of income. It can be something as simple as that, which is, anywhere from 400,000, let's just say, to 600,000 or 700,000 to develop the land and put the tiny homes and give them working capital. So what I've seen is just the two industries have broadened the dollar amounts. And then when Ed just said 50 million or whatever the heck he just said, where my teeth almost fell out. I mean, I think with the office market drying up, because you see in the Wall Street Journal all the time that people can't really invest in the office market anymore because the occupancy rates are real low.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of defaults. A lot of this big money's coming into the RV park industry, which is, if you think about it, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, from a standpoint of an investor. So I think you're seeing a lot of big money coming in, and then at the same time, you're seeing these people that just own a couple acres of land. So the industry is just, the two industries, I should say, have just broadened the scope of finance, where you can be doing anything from, in my case, it would be USDA goes up to 25 million. So anywhere up from 400,000 to maybe 30 million is the range for me anyhow.
And have you noticed any difference in the ability to get these approved, or is it pretty standard with government?
It's really it's based on the lender. I mean, each lender is different. They all have their own appetites. Some lenders, like we've been working with a 504 lender, they go up to 10 million, and they were one of the biggest 504 lenders, and all of a sudden they're starting to back away from the startups, but that's just an appetite change for that lender. And, in the meantime, I've got other 504 lenders. So we're under contract with about 30 lenders. So it's just a matter of picking who I send stuff to.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm more asking, is more the appetite. Like, for sure, there's not going to be a complete cessation. We're not going through that bad of an economy right now, right? So I'm just curious if there's been any change in just the audience idea, if they're considering projects or loans or anything.
No, this month I've got already. This month, it's only a couple days old. I've got a deal came in from O2 Tree House for 4.7 million. Oud houses for somebody owns some land for 650, and the glamping show came in with one for 6.8 million. That's the first 3 days of this month.
Nice. Okay. Good. Glad to hear their strength behind the glamping industry then. You're out there with the world's largest consulting agency.
What was the question? You broke up a minute.
Just generally, what are you seeing out there with the appetite for what people are looking to develop? I know you touched on it briefly.
Well, like I said, I'm working on 9 right now, and I got several more in the pipeline. That's right now, and they range from 150 million down to 1 million. But Paul was talking about the glamping industry being more and more diverse. I finished one last year in Utah, just an hour north of Zion Park. And that was at elevation 7,500 feet. The gentleman had 600 acres, and you couldn't get an RV up there. So he was helicoptering his guest to his glamping. It was all glamping. And so we designed that for him, got that going for him. But it's kind of unique, I guess, but we are seeing diversification. I think that was 76 million, I think, to develop that one, but it had 2 helicopter landing pads on it and horse trails, and he had his own zip line, and he had his own private ski slope. So, but yeah, you couldn't get an RV up there. That was all glamping.
But was his okay? So let me ask you this, because I think we talked about this last week on the show, Scott, on Outwired a little bit. Maybe I'm just fuzzy and it was somewhere else. But we had a conversation about like whether you're glamping first or glamping's an add-on, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like just what you're talking about, Ed, it sounds like if he's got a whole private ski hill, was he ski resort first and added glamping, or was he glamping and?
No, his glamping first by far. Glamping was his primary objective. His amenity to get people to pay to have a helicopter take them up there and stay for a week was to provide these amenities like a private ski slope. So there are some people, and I don't know, he might be listening, so I got to be careful, but his belief is that there are people who they're embarrassed to say they don't know how to ride a horse, or they don't know how to snow ski, something like that. So they will, hey, you don't know how to snow ski?
No, I grew up in Ohio. It was flat, man.
Well, anyway, so he's believing that people will come up there just so that they can be private and take private lessons and learn how to do these things privately. And so he built a very secure plateau on top of a mountain that's at 7,500 feet above sea level.
Yeah, I think those places, and you, Scott, you've done research on this too, and Simon, I'd love to hear your thoughts if there's a difference on this in Europe too. But this is kind of what we referred to as the K-shaped economy, right? I'm not worried at all about these luxury high-end glamping resorts being built. Are you, Scott? At least
No,
not right
not
now.
a bit. Not a
I
bit.
think most people are going to be perfectly fine, maybe 100% occupancy or really, really close to it. It's the middle ground people, let's call it, just for the sake of clarity so people understand maybe a little bit more, let's call it the KOA holiday or below, that I'm worried about. The middle of the road, mom and pop, like I have a playground, I have a swimming pool, I regular camping as a private campground would be viewed at. That's what I'm worried about this summer and into next with the RVing. Do you have any, Scott, you have data on that, and Simon, I want to hear your thoughts on Europe. If there's a difference between that you're seeing in Europe, but Ed, what do you think on that before we move on from you?
Oh, if you provide a better than average location at a better, and you can be higher than average price. I have so many people contact me at Homestead RV Community that don't ask about price. They're just interested in how nice it is. And if you build something nice, we are not seeing a reduction in our occupancy rate month over month from last year. So, if you build something nice, I haven't seen a problem.
That was one of the things I heard too this week. One of the RV manufacturers mentioned that they were absolutely amazed at how many of the Class A's in the 300,000 plus range they were selling. Like they can't keep them. They just sell as many as they can get out the door. It's that middle range and that lower end towables that aren't. So very, very similar. It looks, the economy is having the same impact on each sector. It looks like.
Is there something similar that you're seeing over there, Simon, either with the type of parks that are being more successful early in the summer, or do we not know yet? Or
No, I think there's definitely a trend where glamping's an add-on. So, in fact, we were visiting a customer last week who is on an island on a peninsula, has an amazing beach, has guests who've been coming for 25 years in RVs, who are always coming, and they're really pushing, the cabins, the mobile home, and they've invested heavily in that just to diversify. So they built up some cash, and that's where they're putting it, and they're getting bookings. So there's definitely, if you are small and you're kind of mid-range, if there's an option there to give that high-end experience, even a small part of your campground, that's going to add this separate market where you can attract people who otherwise wouldn't be coming to your campground. And yeah, like Ed said, you got to make sure the experience is good, but you have to diversify what you're selling. I think that's a key point.
is it fair to say that like along that, and I can't remember if I heard a stat on this when we were in Croatia at the Croatian Camping Conference, from Pin Camp or whoever was getting that presentation, but they were talking about how the Germans, who are either retired or close to retirement, but they're heavily unionized, have a nice large salary, are the ones that typically, other people, right? They're the ones that typically come down into the coast of Croatia and are willing to spend the money on those larger, luxurious accommodations that are up in the 500 plus euro range. Is that something similar? That like it's the K-shaped kind of, or no?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's going to be, that wealthy retired couples coming and staying for, 4 or 5 weeks. And they do that probably in their own RV. Or just the kind of, upper middle class families who are going to come and they can afford to pay, these $400 or $500 a night for this super nice private pool cabins like we have in some places. But in the same resort, you have, the $40 a night RV pitch, tent pitch, with the shared amenities, and they're generally pretty good. Yeah, one thing we had a discussion about was, the cost of developing. And I think from what I hear, site costs of $60,000 to $80,000 is just really crazy compared to what it costs to develop here in Europe. I think, I don't know if that's completely regulation or it's just the style with the concrete pads and everything. But in Europe, it's much more kind of adapt to what nature has given you, and just kind of grow slowly over time. So I think it's way cheaper to develop. And then you have the spare cash to put in the extra amenities. Even if you're kind of mid-level campground, you generally have pretty good amenities on the side.
Do you have a sense of what that number is to develop in a site in Europe? I know, it's way all over the place, right? But 60, say if we're comparing the
I did
60 or
a,
80,000.
yeah, I did a bit of research and I got $15,000. So I can't back
Converted
that
to
up
US?
with huge amount. Yeah.
That's a pretty significant gap. Scott, you need to dive into that and do some research on that. Figure out why that's the case. That'd be a really interesting study, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, because that is significant. That is, especially if it's an apples to apples comparison.
And
I
maybe
have
it
a
is.
picture if you want me to share it.
Yeah, please, if you want to. I don't know if I
I shared this today in a LinkedIn post, but it's this kind of what made me think of it.
I'm just gonna walk inside
Because
because I
it's
gotta share it on my laptop. I think I have to
Yeah.
approve adding it to the stream or whatever.
Let me see if I can share now.
Well, Scott, well, we got a little dead air. I would think it'd be interesting to note the average site development cost by location. For example, I just finished one in Arkansas, and they were paying $50 a yard for concrete. And I'm working on one in Indiana, and they're paying $350 a yard for
Whoa.
concrete. So that makes a big difference. It would be difficult to compare apples to apples. Make sure they're using, if they're using asphalt roads and concrete sites and what size their sites are, stuff like that. But I would be interested in your take on what the construction cost can be across the country, because we're really growing a lot in the Northeast and it's very expensive.
Yep. That's where I'm located right now. I'm in Maine. So, yeah. And especially compared to the Southeast. The costs are dramatically different. That's something that we should work on and put that out there, because I agree. I mean, you think of that difference that you gave right there, just as, and then, the site work, everything, all those things.
Talk us through this, Simon, because it's interesting. Like, I'm sure there are differences in the way the sites are being built to save that much money, but the question is maybe there's a market for a cheaper site if you could buy one, or if you could build one in the United States that maybe Europe is doing. I don't know. But talk us through it, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, this was a great example because it is a typical kind of fifth wheel American RV in a European site, and they're generally smaller, generally more restricted access. But this is a 5-star campground, so it's maybe a bit of an exception. But you can see the typical site is, ground's been leveled. You have an access road, which here is not concrete, it's not asphalt. It's just.
Oh.
Am I the only one?
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just the natural earth with some gravel on top. You've got these bushes planted in between. So really, there's not that much, construction work to be done. There's not that much material. It's not expensive material. Each site will have water, electricity. Sewer is a lot rarer. But it's just, it's a different approach to it. I know I've been in American RV sites. So I know it's very systematic. There's concrete pads. It's much more infrastructure. So is there a balance there? Because this cost saving, is pretty significant.
Well, what's the size of these sites, width and length?
Yeah, so this one, I'm gonna have to quickly convert to meters. It's probably like 30 feet by 20 at least. So it's not pull through, it's not back in. You got to do a bit of work to get your RV in there, but it's possible. And this is a pretty big sort of medium, large size site, as an example.
And
But in
this
the
is,
end,
did I understand you correctly that this is 30 feet wide, long? 30 feet is the length?
you're gonna have to let me measure it because I'm kind of just pulling that out of my head.
Okay, I'm
um,
sorry.
He's going from meters to feet, but yeah, he said what he did say he said was 30 foot long by 20 feet wide. Keep in mind they don't have as large of rigs in Europe
I was
as
going
we
to
do in
say,
America.
an average fifth wheel in America is 42 feet long. That's average, and we
But
see
either way, if you look at the way they're building the sites, right? Even if you were to extend that to 45, 50 feet, using the same materials with no concrete pads and no gravel and asphalt, I think you still have a pretty cheap site. Maybe it's 20,000 instead of 15, right?
Well, if you double it in size, you could double the 15,000. Say it's a $30,000 site.
Okay, so we're still like at least 50% cheaper than the 60 to 80 range, right? Maybe 75% cheaper. So the question is, I think, is not whether this product is better or worse. It's that this product is different, and is there a market for this in the United States?
Well, I would say that there's certainly a market in the work camps that we're developing around these data centers. There are people who are working in these data centers. They work 13 days in a row and they get one day off, and then they work about 10 to 12 hours a day, and they don't care if you have a pool or a playground or something like that. They don't care, okay? And they don't give a hoot about I don't know if I can say hoot on this show, but asphalt roads and gravel sites and stuff like that. They're just wanting a quiet place to sleep when they're not working.
But I mean, here, Simon, the typical clientele at these resorts who are filling these sites are families, or what?
yeah, I mean it's heavily family orientated. That kind of 70% range, of the rest young couples and solo or older retired couples. But yeah, these sites are also mixed use. You can put tents on these sites, you can put small RVs and big RVs. So we don't distinguish between a tent site and an RV site. It's only basically size. You have a small one or big one. Small one's not going to fit some RVs. That's it.
But then the benefit of then taking these saved construction costs on the individual sites, and I'm just inferring here, right? So push back against me if I'm wrong. But the benefit of these inferred construction sites is not only that they're cheaper, but then you can spend the money, like you're talking about, on other amenities, which then allow people to gather outside their site more in community areas like pools or restaurants or whatever else, which negate the need for a huge luxury pad that costs so much money at the site, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great argument. I mean, if you have a really luxurious RV, do you need to go outside of it, sort of thing, or outside of your site? But I think definitely that community aspect on the family angle is huge. And then yeah, make the site more basic, spend more elsewhere, and it would also be good for your guests.
I like the idea, excuse me, of these kinds of sites definitely in the mix, because one of the things that, especially now, that you see is people wanting to make maybe some trade-offs instead of paying the $100 or more for the full hookup patio site, that maybe they would opt for just a very nice, well manicured gravel site and spend a lot less, probably the same price that someone would for putting their tent on. That would have an appeal, and for a campground owner, I would think that might be appealing too, because you have a larger diversity of site types. You have a lot of mixed sites. You still have your big pull-throughs with your patios and everything, but then mix in some of these types of sites, and it gives you a little bit more option to bring in a few more guests and fill up some of those spots that for people that are that don't want to pay $100 for an RV site.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, like my argument is not that the European model replaces the U.S. model. My argument is there a place for the European model alongside the current U.S. model to expand the ability of some of our consumers who either can't afford $300,000 plus Class A, whatever, right? Or don't necessarily want to pay for all that because they don't need all that because their rig is either smaller or they don't want to hang out in their RV all day because it's, I don't want to say not as nice, but not as big as, not as contained as whatever, right? Not as much like home. I feel
I
like
don't know if the campground owners would like no people watching people try to park their RV in one of those back their RV onto that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So is there are they hitting buildings and stuff, Simon, in Europe, or are they better
Yeah.
driving or what? Is it because they drive on the different? No, they don't drive on the different side of the road. Never mind, that's UK. But
No, I mean the
You know-
rigs are generally much smaller, right? So this picture here is a bit of an exception, seeing something that size. So it's much smaller, it's easier access, but you know that could also be a trend growing in North America, that people are buying smaller vehicles, more economic, cheaper if the market is changing a bit. So you never know, it could start to drift downwards in size.
Over the last couple of years, when I spend another, I'd say 2 months, 3 months on the road with the Airstream, traveling all over the country. And I talked to my client that's building the Jellystone Park. He was trying to cut back, and he was going to have concrete pads everywhere. And I told him more than half of the places that we go to are just crushed gravel, and there's. I told him you don't really need that, and then you can cut back on a lot of the landscaping until later on. So, I mean, I've seen crushed gravel in most of the places, whether they're KOAs or any of them that we've stayed at. Because when I'm planning our trips, it's just a matter of getting from point A to point B. And even some of the state parks that we stay in are just crushed gravel. They're not concrete. So I just advised him, if you want to cut back, and that's what he did. He moved a lot of his concrete costs to crushed gravel, and he just cut back on some of his landscaping to bring it in at the cost he was trying to bring it in at. And I'm not a consultant. I'm just an Airstreamer that just told him what I see.
it has the largest financial empire in the glamping industry. No, sorry. Okay. So Scott, though, you and I were talking about this. Like we were talking about on the show last week about how there's been a lot of, over the last couple decades and maybe sped up after COVID, a lot of people who are coming in the industry who are, let's say, copying the existing blueprint, right? And this is how we get a lot of parking lot RV parks, right? Is there maybe a sense of like the people who are coming into this industry are seeing what the newer developments have done during COVID or whatever else, and seeing the concrete pads, seeing everything else, and kind of felt like this is the only way to do it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's smart. I mean, to look at that, you kind of what kind of price are you going to demand, and what kind of park do you want to be too? But I think being able to, especially now, to be able to for the average person out there, to look at some of these the different options is very wise to do. And I think that the newer people who come in, I would say, and maybe Ed, you probably might be able to answer this better than me, but it seemed like a lot of the people I've talked to, and maybe Paul too, could answer this too, the idea that a lot of the people who are looking to develop the parks that have come to me for advice and have all wanted the sites to be much bigger and much more like have more space, be more like wooded, more natural type of landscaping. And it just seemed like that's been happening a lot more, that people have wanted that kind of when they're building their parks, that they're seeking that, because I think that's what that people want in general. But again, that's part of a little bit more of the premium market, I think, too.
We're going to do a study. We need to do a study on this, right? Because like I was down in Florida, and I know you had to leave early, Scott, but in my presentation, I did a summary of Florida's websites, and I think it was like a very large percentage of Florida websites emphasize the word community. But in the 5-star reviews that people leave, almost nobody uses the word community, which shows a gap between, or appears to show a gap between, what park owners think that people want and what people actually want. So I think we need to figure out whether RVers actually want gigantic sites with concrete pads, or would they trade that for a smaller site and more amenities, or would they just trade it period without asking anything in return for a cheaper site?
Well, unfortunately, there are still a large number of people in the outdoor hospitality industry that don't realize that there are different types of RV destinations, and parks are just one of several different types. There's at least 5 different types. Community is one of the 5 different types. Resorts is another. Campgrounds is another. Parks, and then there's the hybrid, where something was built to be a park, but it's being used as a community. So it would be very easy to do that research in the fact that there is nobody building a park today. And that's because parks are the only one of the different RV destination types that is actually losing money. So parks are being converted over to communities. There's no communities being converted to parks. That doesn't happen. So there's short-term destinations being converted to long-term destinations, and that shows you right there that the trend is going towards more long-term use.
Yep.
All right, let's spend the last few minutes asking each other questions. We only have like 3 minutes, but we'll see how many we can get to. So for Paul and Ed, this is what we typically do at the end of the show. Paul, is there a question you have for either Simon or Scott or Ed that you'd like to ask?
Can't think of one off the top of my head.
All right, Paul, you're supposed to participate here, man. I'm trying to give you
Well, I don't want to hog the show, but Thor's coming out with a Class A motor coach that's 80,000 pounds and it's all electric. We got an announcement the other day. I can't remember who's building it, but there's a Class C motor coach coming out. It's out now. That's all electric. It's not as heavy. It's only 37,000 pounds, something like that. But this thing's only 30 feet long, and it's all electric. Is that scaring our mom and pops who have daisy chain pedestals, who are on a 200 amp service with 6 pedestals connected to the same breaker? Is anybody worried about the fact that these RVs are going to draw a 100 amp service by themselves?
It's a nuance, right? Is it scaring them or should it scare them? Because is it scaring them is probably like a few years away, just like they're still not scared of electric cars.
Nah, there's a class C motor coach driving down the road right now that's all electric.
I agree with you. I'm saying look at the comparison of electric cars on the road or electric vehicles versus the percentage of campground owners who are worried about installing the infrastructure to support those or charging stations at their campgrounds. I'm saying the lag is there, right? So the lag behind the RVs is likely to be just as long as electric cars is. Isn't that fair?
Well, they better shorten that lag up because they're coming.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. That's why I said is versus should, but continue. Sorry.
I'm sorry. But we have Teslas. We have electric cars at Homestead RV Community constantly. Charging electric vehicles, that's been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah. All right, Ed, let's try you. Do you have a question for Scott or Simon or Paul?
Yeah, I was just asking, is anybody worried about the changes to the industry with the RVs being all electric or demanding more electricity?
It doesn't, I mean, from my perspective, it doesn't really worry me. I feel like it's the future, and it's like climb on board or get out of the way, honestly, because it's going to happen more and more, and the younger generation is going to demand it. If we want to get that generation into RVs, you're going to have to provide this stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. The campground owners are going to have a tough time with the conversion and bringing the infrastructure along, but I also feel like it's going to drive innovation. I truly feel like that it's what we need, this kind of thing, to really push innovation out there.
Yeah. Well, Homestead was the first to be able to meter electricity at every site for every guest, even overnight guests, automatically. And all my clients want that.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's great.
Scott, you have a question for anybody?
I was going to ask Paul briefly. It's like based on what you do. What do you think our outlook for the rest of the year is?
So far, I've been very busy. You know, of course, we're diversified between the two industries, and a lot of our referrals come from the manufacturers, the people that are making the yurts and the glamping structures and the tiny homes. So, from my perspective, we've been busy, and from the lender side, we've got very active lenders that when we exhibit at the shows, they come and work at the shows with us. So we have good lenders, and we have a lot of companies that are submitting deals to our company. As you know, there's very few other lenders that really exhibit at these shows, and one of the bigger ones is, I think, had taken a couple pretty big hits on their portfolio, so they've started to back away. So I think from our company in particular, I think we're in really good shape for going forward. And I don't know if you've heard, but people like Bruce Hurd have joined us, and different people in the industry that have been in the finance space. We've got some very good bankers that are working in our group. So, there's a lot of expertise that we offer to help people. So I feel good about it personally.
Good. Yeah. By the way, I attended the finance committee meeting at the RVIA meetings this week. So it's a really, really interesting part of the industry that I'm very fascinated with.
All right, Simon, do you have any questions before we go?
Yeah, quick one for Ed. Is there all these 9 projects you have running now, is like one incredibly unique aspect to one of them? I don't know, accommodation type, something new that nobody's done before that you like to share?
What a very good question. We touched briefly that the hotel industry is branching out into glamping and RVs. That $150 million project, it does include, in addition to the $150 million, the $150 million is for RVs, but they're also on the same, they have 153 acres, and they're going to have a hotel on it. The people who are putting up the money, they actually own several hotels, and they're putting one of their hotels right next door to the RV industry. So that's a little bit unique. And then I already touched base on the fact that we're seeing a lot of equestrian background. This one guy's putting in a rodeo right there at the RV destination, and people can get their horse out of their horse trailer that they live in the front half and the horse lives in the back half, but they can get him out right there at that location and have that horse right next to them. And then the data centers anywhere a data center is popping up, we're building RV destinations as fast as possible.
How quickly can you do that? Let's say a data center gets approved. How quickly can you build an RV for the work, or RV destination for the workers? Especially in an area like New England, who's a little bit less permissive than Texas.
Yeah, I'm actually building 2 in Texas, but there are certain areas of the country that are more open, friendly to RVs than others. But what is unique, what is interesting, is that when you have a data center come in and purchase 1,700 acres, and they are going to be bringing in thousands of workers, and they're going to be paying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of taxes over the next few years, you have a lot more pull with that governing official to say, hey, where do you want these people to live, dude? Okay. They've got to go someplace. And we have seen that we've been able to push through permits much easier now when the governing official has got somebody standing on his throat saying, you better assist this data center because the restaurant owner, the gas fuel pump owner, the the retail stores, the grocery stores, they all want this here. So get out of the way.
All right.
So I don't think I answered your question. The permitting is what takes permitting, engineering, stuff like that can take months. But yeah, if you can get that stream rolled down from the time you put a shovel in the ground to the grand opening can be 6 months to a year.
Okay. So still not a significant amount of time, but some time. Okay, we're a couple minutes over. We're going to let everybody go, be cognizant of everybody's time, but let's just go around and do final thoughts. Ed, any final thoughts, and where can they find out more about your business?
Thank you for allowing me to be on the show. I'm excited to help. I'm passionate about the industry. Call EOB Consulting, and I'll help you out any way I can. I'll look at your property for free and give you my thoughts.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate you being here. Paul, where can they learn more about what you offer? And then is there any final thoughts you have?
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I mean, I found it interesting, everyone's perspective about, the development side of it, because I'm not really normally that involved with the development part of it. I'm more toward the end of the process when they figured out what they're trying to do and how much it's going to cost. That's when people get in touch with me, which is really why I didn't have any questions. So I appreciate being part of this group and learning from your expertise, because in principle, that just makes me a better person to serve them. Because in principle, that's our job. I'm a SCORE counselor and have been for 17 years for the SBA and a volunteer for SCORE. So the more I learn about this, the better I am, which is really why I started Airstreaming, because I wanted to learn the industry instead of flying around and renting cars. So I enjoy the group. And if I can ever help you in the future, just invite me and I'll join if I'm available. I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you being here. Simon, final thoughts, and where can they learn more about Camp Matt?
I just really enjoyed hearing about the horse development on the campground. I think that's a great idea. Something that might really pick up. And yeah, find us about CampMap, campmap.com. You can easily reach out, book a meeting there, see demos, or on LinkedIn, you can find me and reach out directly.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate you being here. Last but not least, Scott Barr.
KarenConsultingGroup.com is, you can go there. There's a resource library that we try to keep fairly up to date. A lot of research that we've done, some research I've done with Brian. And if not, just reach out directly to me. I love talking about this stuff. And as Brian knows, I can talk about it all day long. I'm easily sidetracked, so be patient. But yeah, no, it's great. It was great talking to everyone today. It was enlightening. It was good stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. If you are not sick and tired of hearing from me and Scott, we will be live in 51 minutes and 17, 16, 15 seconds on Outwired, where we're going to talk about more data, AI news, stuff like that. So join us there. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on MC Fireside Chats. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.